Question 355. You shall not have strange gods before me. What does that mean?
This commandment forbids us to adore other gods and pagan deities, or to worship an earthly idol, or to devote oneself entirely to some earthly good, money, influence, success, beauty, youth, and so on. To be superstitious, which means to adhere to esoteric, magic, or occult, or New Age practices, or to get involved with fortune-telling or spiritualism, instead of believing in God's power, providence, and blessings. To provoke God by word or deed, to commit a sacrilege, to acquire spiritual power through corruption, and to desecrate what is holy through trafficking. Simony. This commandment may seem a little strange. What exactly does it mean? We'll focus on 3 things in order to explain this further. First, who or what is the most important in your life? What or who can't you live without? Is it God or your phone? Or wanting to have the most likes on Instagram or Facebook? Or wanting to look your best in selfies? The first commandment says God must be first in your life. Is He? Remember, whatever you decide is important. He will allow you to have whatever you choose. Is it really what you want? Second, the other ways you can have other gods beside God is to participate in New Age or occult things. For example, do you use the Ouija board or participate in seances to talk to spirits? How about using tarot cards? What's the big deal with those things? It's just a bit of harmless fun, right? The problem is, if you focus on those things, you're telling God and everyone else around you that you do not believe that He does have the most power over your life. Third, having other gods besides God also means to be sacrilegious in different ways. What does it mean to commit sacrilege? The word sacrilege is from the Latin word sacrilegium, which means the theft, profanation, or desecration of something sacred. Let's think about this. One way to be sacrilegious is to insult God on purpose to look cool. There have been situations where people would vandalize a church or desecrate the host in order to fit into a group. That is sacrilegious because a church is a sacred place and the host is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus. To do anything to the host is to do it to Jesus. Another way to commit sacrilege is to participate in simony, which is basically to bribe people within the church to get power as a religious person or to get into heaven. To keep this first commandment, you need to believe that God is the most important person in your life and act like it.
Question 356. Is esotericism, as found, for example, in New Age beliefs, compatible with the Christian faith?
No. Esotericism ignores the reality of God. God is a personal being. He is love and the origin of life, not some cold cosmic energy. Man was willed and created by God, but man himself is not divine. Rather, he is a creature that is wounded by sin, threatened by death, and in need of redemption. Whereas most proponents of esotericism assume that man can redeem himself, Christians believe that only Jesus Christ and God's grace redeem them, nor are nature and the cosmos God. Pantheism. Rather, the Creator, even though he loves us immensely, is infinitely greater and unlike anything he has created. The Greek word for esotericism is esoterikos, which means the idea that someone has to be initiated into the inner circle in order to understand whatever knowledge there is, usually spiritual knowledge. And it's the kind of knowledge that is already within the person. What's the problem with that? Well, it doesn't make room for God. How does that apply to us today? Many people today practice yoga for health reasons, enroll in a meditation course so as to become more calm and collected, or attend dance workshops so as to experience their bodies in a new way. Unfortunately, these techniques are not always harmless. Often, people will try to introduce in those places doctrines that are foreign to Christianity, such as the worldview that people can get magical powers or harness mysterious spirits, or that people who are initiated or part of the group have a secret knowledge that no one outside the group has. Any person with rational thought should not hold a worldview like that because it is irrational. In ancient Israel, the surrounding people's beliefs in gods and spirits were exposed as false. For example, remember the event in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verses 22 to 39, where the Jewish prophet Elijah showed God was truly the Lord against 450 prophets for the so-called god Baal. Both had agreed to prove who was the real God by offering a bull to their god on wood without starting the fire. Whichever god responded with fire was the true God. The Baal prophets had no luck, whereas God answered Elijah by burning the bull after Elijah had doused his bull and filling the trenches around the altar with a tremendous amount of water. When the people saw what had happened, they realized God alone is Lord. There is no God besides him. It's important to remember that there is only one God, and there is no magical technique by which one can capture or charm the divine, force one's wishes on the universe, or redeem oneself. Much about these esoteric beliefs and practices is superstition or occultism and is not compatible with the Christian faith.
Question 357. Is atheism always a sin against the First Commandment?
If someone intentionally and explicitly denies God, he sins against the First Commandment. However, his responsibility may be seriously impaired, as when, for example, he has learned nothing about God or has examined the question about God's existence conscientiously and cannot believe. The line between being unable to believe and being unwilling to believe is not clear, but the attitude behind each is different. If a person takes the time to examine the faith and to try to learn more about God's existence, yet finds himself not able to believe, it's different from not even wanting to try to find the truth. Often, the attitude that simply dismisses faith as unimportant without having examined it more closely is often worse than the attitude of taking the time to examine the faith and trying to learn more about God's existence, but finds himself not able to believe. Only God knows why a person is an atheist, and whether it is a sin is up to him. Agnosticism, from the Greek gnosis, meaning knowledge, is defined as the view that God cannot be known, a general term for a position that leaves open the question about God's existence because it supposedly cannot be decided or because God cannot be known with certainty. Agnosticism can sometimes include a certain search for God, but it can equally express indifferentism, a flight from the ultimate question of existence and a sluggish moral conscience. Agnosticism is all too often equivalent to practical atheism. Hi, I'm Katie Locus. This is my sign name. I'm from the Archdiocese of Kansas City in Kansas. Thank you so much for watching our video this week. Hope to see you again next week. Bye!